Welcome back to Graffiti TV. My name's Kato, and today I'm going to show you some more sketching techniques. I've chosen the letter E for today's example. I've done 6 different versions in a couple of different styles. I've divided the letters into smaller sections so you can get more control and add more detail. I've left the letters incomplete so you can see how they were put together, and then I'll show you some different ways to combine these sections back together to create more depth in your piece. So stay tuned and let's get to it. If you notice here, I've sliced these larger pieces in half. I've done this just so that I can see a bit more of a three-dimensional shape. You see on this one here, I've lined it up with this curve, with this corner here, and it makes it look like it's, you know, if I shaded in one side and left the other side quite highlighted, it looks quite 3D. It's a good way of getting some ideas of things to do for your letters. It also breaks up these big empty spaces too. You can do whatever you want. That's just something I tried. Let's have a look at this one here first. You see these 2 intersecting pieces here. I'd come back in and kind of rub this out in the middle and leave that. See this piece here? This is just conveniently lined up, giving me the opportunity to make that part of the main bit of the letter, the middle bit of the E there. So that looks quite good like that. I'd leave it like that. Might even bring these 2 together. So it's combining them but still showing that they're separate around the edges. This little bit in the top here, a good thing to do with stuff like this is you can kind of have it overlap and then disappear into it. So that little line that I just dropped there, just showing it where it's disappearing into. So now that pushes up out of the letter and then swings away from it. So we've already added a bit of depth there. You might even just put a little bit of shadow on there, and that pumps it out even further. And again, I've gone around on these little bits and added little accents, edges and serifs, like what I was talking about before. This piece going along here, this little guideline maybe might kind of line it up a little bit more even. And see, I've done something similar to this top bit here, but I've actually just run it all the way in line with the bottom. That gives us something interesting there. Even just taking out this little bit of a line here, I might even just leave that break in the middle there. It gives it a cool kind of 3D kind of attitude going on there. I might do those 2 bits in the background. Kind of overlap this top bit here. And that kind of just tucks in. Something like that. This is a bit of a strange E. I've never really done something like this, but it's always a good thing to try something new. See how you go. You find a lot of similarities between letters too. I mean, every letter I draw, it just feels like all other letters just smashed up and flipped around, and even just looking at your letters upside down, inside out, you know, turning the page over and looking through the other side, you'll find a lot of different combinations and different ways to arrange your little sections to make a better letter. And this one here, quite like the way it looks, a bit separate but not too much. Again, try and push some pieces behind and in front to give this nice layered effect. But you know, you can try out different combos as far as which bits you're rubbing out and you know, where you're going to push it and where you're going to leave it. And again, these lines that I've drawn through here, they just give you another option. They just give you a little backbone to that section that you've created. So here, it's, you know, it's showing that this bit here is slipping behind and starts to give it 3-dimensional shape. So I could do the same thing on here. This little piece is kind of sitting behind. And when you start to paint this, or however you want to do it, whether you just want to use a paintbrush on paper or you want to go out and start actually painting. You can just use different colours or a slightly darker version of whatever colour you're using to get in and start to push these pieces in and out. But some of the lines there you can leave again, like how I did here. I might even leave that line. This is just a bit of a happy accident. I haven't really done like that before, but it's given it a really nice edge to it and making it quite 3D. Through here, I'll probably make these plates look like they're sitting on top, maybe like some little bits of armour or random, knickknacks hanging off it. If you put a little bit of a shadow on this bottom edge here, that's just going to show that it's got a bit of thickness, a bit of presence there. Doesn't have to be much. You don't want to draw your eye away from all the other lines in the letter, but enough. So you see there, that's quite a three-dimensional looking letter, pushed out quite a bit. I didn't really go in with the intention of doing a 3D letter there, but it has, just with these lines and adding that little bit of shading in there, it's really turned it out a bit more. So here I'm just trying to figure out how I want these little bits to connect. Try something different. This one over here, these ones have kind of got a bit of a kink in the bottom bit. This one here I've just done a single piece with a little accent on it. I'll just kind of outline where I want it to stay before I rub out. That's one way to kind of hold it together a bit better so you don't rub out your fine lines. I just kind of scarred the paper a little bit by pushing into it a bit harder, so those lines will stay there even if I rub them out. Just be careful though if you want to be confident that that's where you want the line, because if you do start to push harder and scar the paper, it's going to make it a bit harder to get rid of it. You're always going to have a bit of a dent there. This one's a bit different too. These pieces, the way that they overlapped here, I intentionally pushed one into the middle again, kind of similar to what I did on this one. The way that middle bit of the E, it just looks a little bit in line with the way that you've broken up the letters. So picking and choosing where you break them is really important, because they can actually end up turning into a significant part of the letter and not just some complementary background stuff. This one here, probably maybe just thicken up that top bit. It was a little bit weak. It's good to have a bit of variety in your letters, but there's certain points where your letters will just kind of just start to fall apart and look a bit odd, If the whole thing's nice and solid and has good firm footing and stuck in, and then you kind of push one random bit really in a strange way, unless you really know what you're doing, you can make it look a little weird. But weird can be good. Experiment. So like that's just kind of giving it a little bit more weight. This bit here, I kind of added this piece in the background afterwards, and I thought I'd kind of push that into the background as well. So just like I have there. And these lines are lining up, just going straight through. It's just a nice bit of flow to it. In here, this bit's a little bit blank in here, so what I might do is kind of see where I was going to go over, where I was going to draw that outline for this piece, and just pull a little bit of it back. So that edge there, that kind of would have lined up all inside, and then give that a little bit of a shadow, and then it looks like it's just pushing up through that top piece there. Thanks for tuning into Graffiti TV. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Remember to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Graffiti TV.